This is White Centipede Noise Podcast, where we give language to noise. I'm Oscar Brummel, and today my guest is Egan Budd of the long-running death industrial project Zyphoid Dementia. Egan ran Existence Establishment Booking and Blood Ties webzine, and was a pillar of the Boston DIY noise and industrial scene for many years. He is now based in Seattle, where he continues to record and perform as Xiphoid Dementia, with a new LP out now called Spiral Rapture Holy War, on Fusty and Aufnahme und Wiedergabe. This is part 1 of the episode with Egan. To listen to the full-length episode, go to patreon.com/whitecentipedenoise. Once you do, you'll get access to this and other full-length podcast episodes, Patreon-exclusive WCN TV content, our Discord community, discounts at White Centipede Noise, and much more. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters who make this show possible. White Centipede Noise Podcast is sponsored by Rural Isolation Project. Visit ruralisolationproject.com, ruralisolationproject.bandcamp.com, or look out for them at a distro near you. All right, a real quick distro update. This week we've got new titles in stock from Buried in Slag and Debris, new tape from New Grasping Machina, Jonas Torstensson, Kevin Corcoran, Jute, and a collab between Howard Stelzer and Artbreak Hotel, as well as copies of the newest untitled zines, the newest issue number 10 and a few of number 9. Guy from a new Finnish label stopped by the shop and brought some tapes from his new label called Sudden Movements. Pretty interesting stuff. This is a great Finnish project called, I really can't pronounce it, too fucked up, but I heard the CD on Satatawata. The tape is good as well. And we've got a couple new titles as well from Sinkhole Entertainment. The newest Boiling Point tape from the label boss, and a restock of Spate, Dog Mono, really excellent CD he put out a couple years ago. In addition to that, we've got new stuff from Kyle Flanagan, Easy Riders, Lake Shark Harsh Noise, and a bunch more on the way. Should be here in the next week or two, as well as the Reanimated Miscarriage stuff will be coming in soon, and lots more. I uploaded a bunch of stuff to the White Centipede Noise Bazaar from the secondhand department as well. So check that all out. You can find it all at whitecentipedenoise.com. Egan, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to White Centipede Noise Podcast here at WCN Studios.
Psyched to be here.
What's your reason for being in Berlin right now? You have a new record out. Is it related to that?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, just vacationing.
Okay.
But no, main thing is my wife and I came over to go to Wave Gothic Treffen for the second time. We went in 2022.
Nice.
Back here in 2025, we both listened to a lot of dark wave, cold wave. They do industrial, they do neoclassical, they do all kinds of stuff there. I was like joking with a lot of people that like 90% of the music there is garbage, but like the other 10% is like stuff that you would blow your mind.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky because I saw probably one of the best neo folk sets I've ever seen in my life in Gowan Ring.
Okay.
And then went over to a different venue on the same night, saw one of the best synth pop sets I've ever seen in Serena. In the same night.
Part of the same festival. So they have
same
like
festival.
different venues.
It's a whole town that they take over.
Okay.
It's like all goths ranging from like crazy Victorian steampunk ridiculousness to people that wear black to really just fans of music, cool music, know. Some people don't even go to the music. There's parties. Yeah. There's walks in the park. There's running. There's like it's a cultural thing just as much as it's a music thing. But I mean, my wife and I are music nerds. So that's really what we're there for. That's cool.
I have always heard like little snippets of cool bands playing here and there, but I've sometimes seen like the I don't know, accoutrement, the aesthetics or whatever. I'm just like, I don't know. Like,
it's not for everybody, that's for sure.
But I'm like, but it's probably a lot of fun. You know, it probably is a lot of fun.
You know, I feel like for some people that are into the music, but maybe not into as much of the culture, just let your inhibitions go down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like sometimes it feels ridiculous, and it is, but like just have some fun.
That's super important to do in many, many situations. And I won't go into detail, but in my personal life, that's been a very like important lesson.
Yeah,
just, like,
yeah.
You know, like just not be like, not judging and like negatively critical about like superficial things, and just like let yourself get into something, and also get to know people and just be like, all right, like let's just
Yeah, I mean, I could bring this back to some noise stuff and talk about like back in the day when we had Northeast Noise and Power Electronics Festival in Boston. In the 2009 version, Marshall Canterell played a set, and like at the end of the night, after just like your mind being filled with like harsh, fucked up images, words, expressions, you just like let loose and dance to some synth pop. You know, all of a sudden, like all the barriers of the pretension kind of breaks down, and everyone that's like just been like eyeing each other, sizing each other up is now like out on the dance floor shaking their booty. Like, and we're all, you know, drunk or whatever you are, just like, you know, letting loose. I mean, I think that to me was maybe a missing kind of factor in noise and stuff. And I think it's different now because since then, like we've gone through all of these sets where, you know, kids are holding distortion pedals up in the air and there's like a crew of people like climbing up that, you know, it's like it's different. I mean, sure, some of that stuff happened probably in Japan, like, you know, before or in the early 2000s or whatever, but like, you know, it's much more acceptable to be like having fun and you know, all that. But felt like, man, maybe it was just the scene that I was involved in back then. It was like more like arms crossed, looking angrily at everyone else, you know?
I do find myself, and I'm sure people notice this, I do find myself becoming like increasingly like hippie minded and like community minded about things, and just like wanting that to be like the actual reality of things, and the you know, not to like change it and like deny the antisocial or negative aspects of things, but also that it coexists with actual, you know, positive energy, positive feelings towards each other.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just more and more what I'm really actually
I mean,
all
yeah,
about.
you do have to keep it positive, you know, and I do have a tendency to get critical. I mean, people that have been following me for a while, I'm sure they know I've written harsh reviews before, you know, but I always tried to be constructive criticism. And never like, you know, I never tried to have ad hominem attacks or anything like that, you know, to people. But I did, that's part of why I don't do that anymore too, because I felt like I was dishing out more criticism and like kind of negativity into the world where I'd rather be empowering the things that I appreciate rather than shining light on the things that I don't.
Yeah.
You know?
That makes sense. I am also very pro criticism though. I'm also very pro like honesty and like standards and,
that's
opinions.
Well, it's a fine line, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if someone's doing something that you just abhor, whether it's, you know, like some kind of creative work, you know, like, are you going to go talk shit on them and possibly like stop them from growing as a creative person or like put a damper on it or just like make their day worse? Or are you just gonna like, I mean, I think the thing to do is just continue on your way and like let them do their thing. And, you know, just if you're asked, then that's when you have to be like, look, I'm staying in my lane. It's not my thing. Do you want real criticism? And then, you know, you give it out and that it is what it is. But like, not everything is for everybody, right?
No,
So,
and that's very true. That's something I've dealt with recently is like people send me a lot of stuff through having the label and the, you know, the podcast and things like that. And I don't check everything out, but I do try to check some stuff out. But if I usually want to give like my opinion on it, because I figure that's why you're sending it to me or something like that. Not just to say like, this is what I did, it's great, don't say anything. And I
hope they give you a note to say why they're sending it to you.
Then like, I don't know. I have people then like that get, you know, like unsubscribe from what I'm doing and blah blah, because I like told them like a constructive criticism about something they sent me like out of the blue, and I'm just like, what do you want me to I don't know, what do you want me to do?
I would say nothing unless they're asking for something. Is probably the way to go, you know.
Before we get into your history and all that good stuff, let's talk about your newest record, because that just came out on Fusty and Aufnahme und Wiedergabe, split label release. The title is Spiral Rapture Holy War, and it's on, it's an LP, and it's also on streaming platforms, which is how I've been listening to it so far. I will have it in the distro very soon. Cool. Yeah, tell me about this record. It's very powerful. It's, you know, you don't put out a ton of music. You're not super, you know, prolific. You've done albums every few years, right? So this is 2025, and your last album before that was 2020?
2020, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
So just tell me about this album. What's this album about? Just roughly, if we can say theme wise, there are notable samples in it. The title tells something that, certainly is reminiscent of a lot of things that people are thinking about and going through, I think, right now. But what is this album about for you?
I'm glad you felt that way about the timeliness of the title. Um, Certainly it was influenced of the events that happened between the last album and this album. Um, it's kind of the start of a series, and I don't want to like commit too much to that because things happen,
Right.
but essentially from since the last album, I would say that I've gone through somewhat of a personal apocalypse, as well as like the world has gone through an apocalypse of a sort. And you could say that we're living in a bit of a post-apocalyptic world for now, at least. Certainly in the US, millions of people died from COVID. At one point, I was in Seattle, and I think I was actually writing one of my folk records at the time, but I had many inspirations in mind for the next Zyphoid record, for this Zyphoid record. Um, when I was in lockdown because of the protests,
Mm-hmm.
in lockdown because of COVID. Oh, sorry, martial law because of the protests, lockdown because of COVID, also restricted to the house because of smoke from the wildfires going on the West Coast. And there was probably one other thing, but it was like, it seemed like the world was crashing down. And I was just like, writing and getting ideas because of this. On top of, I've been keeping track of political issues for many years, and, climate change, global warming, all that stuff. And then on top of that, I turned 40, went through a bit of a midlife crisis, and, instead of buying a really nice sports car, I decided to write a Death Industrial album. So, and take a shit ton of shrooms and have a life altering experience. So, I definitely got into the fact that I'm going to die, that we're all going to die, that like literally everyone I know is going to die. And so I had the realization that we all go through our own personal apocalypse, as well as the world potentially going through one as well. Or I should say humanity. The world continues unless it's hit by an asteroid or something. So long answer to that is that, I'm kind of hearkening back to a little bit of the, religious, revelations, but also more of the secular interpretation, which is like you have the four horsemen of the apocalypse. The spiral rapture holy war represents war. So this is the first horseman. So
Okay.
expect 3 more horsemen.
Now available from Attic Shrines, new offerings of rotting harsh electronics. Unattended from Tortured Ghost, a duo exploring the fringes of noise wall under direct influence from the genre's masters. An audio seance where unmanned equipment shudders in unrest. Also available, Files 13 through 36, cold cut-up archival ambience unearthed in this follow-up from the post-mortem investigations of Morgue File. With Casilda's It Is Done, dreamlike pessimism regresses into primitive proto-industrial, black rituals for total de-evolution. And the latest release from Fairy Ring, Dimensional Ouroboros, field recordings from the natural world, overblown into harsh, whipping psychedelia. 6 cycles of spectral decay bear witness to the erosion of all organic life. Cassettes available at atticshrines.bigcartel.com and international distros including White Centipede Noise.
Kind of before I had formalized all of that concept, I'd done about a year's worth of work for Zyphoid. I had a performance at I can't remember what it was called. It might have been the Northeast Noise Fest, which at the time was during COVID, so it was all on video. And I had a lot of material from that. One track which ended up being on Thomas Garrison's compilation to raise money for his cancer. So that didn't appear on the full length, but the other tracks did. And actually, no, there was only 2 tracks from it that did. But so yeah, I mean, it's just, I always like kind of think of concept as it before or while I'm working on the music. So yeah, I mean, it's the beginning of the end, really. I mean, whether it's the beginning of the end of the project, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, I've thought a lot about, because I've just been doing this for so long. I've thought a lot about once I finish these albums, which I mean, my speed has been about every 5 years, so it could be another 15 years.
Right. Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
You know. But you know, I thought about, oh, maybe I'll go into a dormant state with the project after that. Maybe I'll just do collabs. Maybe, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But I have, on top of that, I have other plans, even involving these series too. But I don't want to like divulge too much right now because you know, I've got to get there first.
Right.
So.
It's always good to keep plans.
But I hope to like, I hope that maybe like I'm gonna be creating more faster.
Yeah.
From here on out. But then again, I still am split between a few projects. Like I got my neofolk project, which I am now kind of like alternating work on. So that does slow things down a bit as well.
Do you feel like you're refreshed with this album? Because I know, you know, that's a kind of consistent output period, but maybe I'm wrong, but in the last several years, maybe roughly 10 years, you don't seem to be as active in like noise and industrial stuff as you used to be. I mean, remember when I kind of got into noise around 2007 or 8? In those mid-late 2000s and so on, you were, I saw your name all over the place. You're organizing a lot of shows and things like that. And since then, you've somewhat gone quieter in that, you know, you were in Boston, right? You were the guy in Boston doing shows.
Yeah.
Right. And so does this, and for some reason to me, I guess it feels like this album is maybe I don't want to say like a comeback, but it feels like you maybe have like a new, fresh kind of burst or something like that of a new phase of the life of the project.
I love that you feel that way.
Do you feel that way?
It's the same
It's
as
just
every
another
other
album.
album.
Okay.
I certainly feel like I've maybe done a lot of evolving. But I think part of that is just the label, like you know, Fusty and Aufnahme und Wiedergabe have a certain clout, I think, to both of them. The last album was on Div Series, which is like a much more like low-key label. And it's run by Raj of FRKSE. He's a Boston-based industrial noise artist. One of my good friends. But I don't think that he has the like social media and like all of the promotion. Also, my promotional chops have gotten a lot better too.
Sure.
So I think that's part of it, is like I've kind of gotten more of a handle. I didn't even have a Bandcamp when I released Prison of Hope, because you know, I've been around for a while. I'm a little behind, you know, the latest trends and everything, you know? So a part of it is just getting the word out.
Right.
And I think I could have done a lot more with promoting Prison of Hope than I did. And I do feel like if there was evolution, I think maybe more of it happened between Secular Hymns and Prison of Hope, because I had the Bastard Noise split.
Okay, yeah.
Which, you know, the material's good, but I just don't think it has quite the edge that Prison of Hope has on it. And then I did the 3-tape box set for 20 years on Black Horizons.
Okay.
Which also, like, I do want to comment on the prolificness, because a lot of people mention that. And I think if you look at my body of work thus far, I have a lot more stuff out than a lot of other artists.
It's true. I don't know. I don't know why I think that either, but I guess I'm looking at like albums. Like, you feel like you make albums that are you like, you know, they're not rare, but it seems like they come. You're not like putting
You're right,
many
though.
things out each year. You know,
You're
like,
right. But now I also have longevity on
Yeah.
people. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many artists have come in and done like, you know, bam, I've done like 30 releases in 3 years, maybe
Yeah.
even 50 releases
Yeah.
in 3 years. And then guess what? They disappear.
Yeah,
You never hear
yeah,
from them again.
yeah.
You know, and like how many people remember some of those? It's like not a lot, you
No, I
know?
know,
And
I
like I
know.
play with people like that. And
Yeah.
you know, there's currently acts like that where people
Yeah.
say, "Oh, how was this band?" And I'm like, "Oh, they're cool.
Yeah.
Probably won't be around in 2 years."
Yeah,
But you know, like
yeah,
you just sometimes it's a vibe, you know.
For sure.
You're just like,
For sure.
hot person of the month, you
Yeah.
know, and then
I see that,
which is fine.
It is, yeah. I mean, it is. It's fine.
It's a beautiful thing,
It is.
actually.
I feel like sometimes those artists even have a different style of music. Like sometimes they make really great stuff. That's like like someone will come on and they'll be doing. They're kind of, at least like in the harsher noise world. Like I think I see that with like this, like some like art kids. They come out of like
Yeah.
kind of more art school perspective, and they do something really fresh and great.
Yeah.
And they're burning hot for like, and they're doing lots of stuff for like a couple of years. But I'm like, you're gonna just disappear at some point soon, and it always happens. You're gonna be over it. You're gonna be like, all right.
Well, often at least.
Yeah, not all, but like I'm like
Yeah.
I can see it. I'm like, you're gonna be like, all right, I've done my thing here. I'm going to something else.
Yeah.
And that's also fine, because then we have this like little moment that
Well, hopefully they also do their little part in pushing the boundary a little bit,
and they
right?
and they do, exactly, they do. And then people are like, where did so and so go? And it's like, they moved on, but that's okay. They left behind
probably for the better of their personal life and you know, everything else.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Their mental health, maybe other things.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and that was, you know, part of why I started the folk project, is because like, I mean, Zyphoid is existential dread, you know, like it's a hard place to be all the time,
right?
You know, and I was just like, you know, I need something different to express myself with. You know, and it's funny too, because like I do have a lot of styles and different kind of qualities to Zyphoid, probably more than a lot of noise projects or industrial projects. But it's still just like, it's more of a mood that's consistent.
Right.
And I needed like a different outlet for that. You know? But I love coming back to it, especially at times like these where shit just gets fucking worse, you know? And,
it is a good decision with the label. Those are interesting kind of contrasting labels, but I think Fusty is a great label to expose it to the noise world, because like you said, he has, I don't want to use the word clout, but he has a
following,
a good reputation for putting out good extreme stuff, and a wide, you know, kind of eclectic variety of good extreme stuff. And then you have Aufnahme and Wiedergabe, who I'm not as familiar with, but they also they have a good reputation and a good following. So but they're from totally different.
Yeah. And Aufnahme is more like, they have really eclectic artists. I mean, I was looking back through the catalog. I mean, from what I already knew, you know, cold wave, Berlin style techno, synth pop, EBM. They even have a little bit of neo folk there, buried in there.
Right.
Some old noise and ambient stuff. So I did feel like I was a little out of left field, because it had been a while since I released anything other than kind of like some EBM and cold wave stuff. But I was totally stoked when Philip got back to me and just was like, "Oh, this could be really cool."
Yeah, it's a cool decision.
I mean, it was all on him. You know, I sent him the demo and he like had some heartfelt things to say when he wrote me back, and I was just like absolutely stoked.
Cool. And you played this. I was you know, researching shortly before here, just today. I don't even think I didn't search your name on YouTube. I just pulled up my YouTube for some other reason, and it said like 12 hours ago posted, Zyphoid Dementia plays Berlin, this I didn't even know that's what it was, but I know this image of the person standing in front of the camera,
the bathroom, the weird bathroom,
and I was like,
almost looks like it could be a snuff film or something.
exactly. and I looked at the video, and you were like 15 minutes away, and I saw the video, and I was like, oh, is this from like years ago? And then it was like, oh, this was like yesterday, or maybe not yesterday. It was like, So
it was just about as last minute as this podcast.
Okay,
honestly, it was kind of like I had messaged Philip and let him know, and I think it was just pretty late, because we kind of got this whole vacation together a bit late. But he was like, "Wow, it's late, but like how about this thing? And I was like, sure, it sounds cool. So
Cool.
This August, Ritual presents a stacked tour featuring Sissy Spacek, Psy Warfare, Suppression, Sulfuric Cautery, and Sunk Cost. 4 nights of chaos across Texas, San Antonio at Crazy Rhythms Records on August 21st, Austin at Chess Club on August 22nd, Houston at the End on August 23rd, and Denton at Rubber Gloves on August 24th. Doors at 6 p.m., shows start at 7. Tickets are $15 and can be purchased in the bio of at ritual.presence on Instagram. Set times will be posted day of on Instagram stories and at each venue.
Your sounds, your process, your creative process, and also your technical process. And I feel like I read somewhere or know somewhere that you're a sound designer, right?
mm-hmm. Yes, I do sound design for video games.
Yeah.
I've done music, voiceover, all kinds of stuff, implementation. Yeah.
Cool.
For about 20 years. It's about as long as I've been doing noise. So I went to school for it.
Awesome.
And then just like I took a little break, tried to do some other shit because I was worried that doing any type of music or sound design for my work would affect my artistic work.
Mm-hmm.
But I soon found the dregs of doing retail and non-skilled work to be too depressing. So I was like, well, what's a good job that, can be regular, kind of like corporate, but also, be able to use my sound design skills and all that. And then I decided to try and get into video game design, and I got into it, and I've been in it since.
Cool. Are you a gamer?
I used to be more of a gamer, and even when I was more of a casual gamer, I would say I'm not a gamer these days. It's like once you see how the sauce is made, it's tough to like be really interested in it. I would say if I play games, it's usually for research.
Okay.
Just to keep up with the industry and what's going on in there. And I might have a little fun here and there, but it's certainly not something that I devote a lot of time to.
Yeah.
It's just I don't have that much time.
Sure.
Mostly working on music stuff is my passion outside of work, so.
How much does your sound design video game work cross over with, let's say, the newest album?
I'd say a lot.
Yeah.
I actually spent a few years doing music for a game that did not come out.
Okay.
And so I lost a lot of really good work, in my opinion. And I studied a lot of orchestration, as well as music theory and all that. So I think that can probably be heard from the time that I released Prison of Hope. Now I flirted with more of it and some of it in Prison of Hope, but like if you go from Prison of Hope to Spiral Rapture Holy War, you'll hear like more layers that kind of come together in a better, more solid way, I think. And different instruments being played together, whether it's like harmoniously or in unison, that like are affecting the sound, making it softer, making it harsher, stuff like that.
I really like I'm sensitive to melodic stuff in power electronics and industrial because I feel I probably talk about this too much in the podcast. People are probably sick of hearing it, but I feel like a lot of times when people implement that kind of stuff in noise or industrial music, they end up using very like basic kind of melodic ideas that just kind of sound like major minor chord switching, or like this is a sad, a sad loop. And I don't often hear like really compelling or like complex melodic stuff, but I think this record has some really, really great kind of atonal, like slightly detuned like overtones, like the hammer bells and things like that. The way they mesh with the other like the harmonies are the kind of chord clashes that happen are really, really cool.
Thank
and
you.
I really like that is the element that I really enjoyed the most about this record, is like the melodic stuff and kind of I guess what I would maybe think is like neoclassical stuff. I don't know. I actually want to ask you, like, what are some I don't know what neoclassical music is really, or modern classical music. Like, I don't know what actual artists are that I would like want to check out.
Yeah, I mean,
can you talk about some of your influences in that regard, or just generally with the record? Like, what were some of your symphonic or melodic influences on this?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of is a little bit of a rant that I wanted to go on.
Good.
Where when I hear people, and I digress because I referred to my music as noise earlier, but refer to my music. It's just kind of used to it because I'm used to talking to people that don't know what I do.
Right.
But when I talk about it and I hear people referring to what I do as noise, I kind of I'm like, I
It's
roll.
clearly not.
Because it's not. I don't
No.
consider
No,
because
it's obviously not.
I listen to my fair share of noise.
Yeah.
I worship Pulse Demon.
Yeah.
I keep up with New Forces stuff like that. When you're talking about like harsh noise, abstract field recording, shit like that. Sure there might be a little bit of rhythmic stuff in there.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, this is barely noise. Like I use distortion. That doesn't make it noise. Like
exactly.
rock bands use distortion too,
Yeah.
So I'm more of like, at this point I've turned the corner and I'm more of like keep noise out of industrial kind of person versus like the other way around, so I mean it's early cold meat industry kind of shit. Like that's the stuff that like is really influencing me and the stuff that I want to build on. And I feel like there's not enough of that stuff being made right now, and it's making me want to go in that direction and saying, well, how can we further this in a new or I shouldn't even say new. I just want to continue the direction that it was going in,
Cool.
And yeah, sure. Like I'm sure that if you listen, you can hear some of my power electronics influences, some of my harsh noise influences. I mean, I certainly in the past have flirted with harsh cut up noise more. And I think it's something that I may or may not have been too successful at doing. So, I kind of left it where it was. But now I'm just, it's more just like the mood and the atmosphere is more important. And then it's like, what is the sounds that are going to express that? Right. And so the idea of like fitting into a certain genre or style isn't foremost in my mind. But the mood does happen to be like, this is cinematic, this is dark, this is hard to listen to sometimes because that's what these themes are hard to swallow. And so that's kind of what I'm going for. It's not so much of an idea of like fitting into a genre or emulating artists that have come before me. The fact that I do emulate artists that have come before me is more happenstance.
Okay, sure. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, and I was actually curious about that too when I was listening to it because I'm not familiar with a lot of, let's say, industrial or dark or whatever general over umbrella term we could maybe use for it. So when I'm listening to it, I'm wondering, because I'm like, this is not something I've really heard before. Is there a whole genre that I'm just not familiar with that is similar to this, or is this to me it's like, wow, this is something very special and fresh. I
wish I could say I'm the fucking original Mr. Man. No, there is. I mean, like if you listen to like the way that MZ412 has evolved from, earlier stuff was power electronics. Now they're doing this kind of more cinematic. I mean, I would say a lot of it is similar to what I'm doing. And some of the old cold meat industry bands like Inslaughter Natives, the old stuff is really kind of rudimentary and I wouldn't say laughable, but definitely like hard to listen to after a while because it's the same militaristic drum set just going for an entire album. But their newer stuff is like layered and like it could be the soundtrack to like a super dark, intense video game or something if you were to like place it in that. I don't really like to say, oh, this always sounds like it's the soundtrack to something because I don't think you need to like say something is good by saying it could be paired with a visual, even though I am totally go off and like pair all my stuff with visuals because I think it's fun. It's really, that's what I like doing. But, I don't think that it needs to be that way. But yeah, no, I think there is like, there's bands out there that are doing very similar stuff and that I have been inspired by. I don't think it sounds exactly like what I'm doing, but it's definitely in the ballpark. So I would say, like there's probably just a lot of artists that you're not too privy to that you'd be like, oh, okay, I get it now.
No, I'm sure, but I do really. That's why I like that it came out on Fusty as well, because I think it puts it on the plate of other people, and it puts it into my, direct plate in a way that it might not have if, on another label, and I'm exposed to something kind of, I mean, I'm not unfamiliar with this type, this thing, but it's like, I'm listening to it and really like kind of with a fresh set of ears and being like, this
I would say
really...
there's more bands on like Cloister recordings that probably have more of an influence. I've been keeping up with their stuff, and they have some things that kind of delve into a little bit of like cinematic kind of classical motifs as they're like blasting harsh rhythms and noises and stuff. So getting more experimental, but also coming back to some kind of orchestral undercurrents as well,
So tell me then about kind of the technical side of an album like this, like the instrumentation, the gear or lack thereof. Are we hearing acoustic instruments that you've really recorded? Are they using really good, what do they call them, VSTs?
VSTs, yeah. I do record some stuff, mostly like sound effects. There's definitely a lot of synths in it. I use a Virus TI with my setup as source material. I do have like a good orchestral VST set. It's called East West Composer Cloud. So it's a subscription service where you get to use the software, and it's like basically anything you want. I mean, it's got everything it's kind of too much. It's got everything as detailed as like what mics do you want on the stage with the clarinets,
right,
so it's kind of a little, but I've been working with it for years, both professionally and non-professionally, and it's something that I kind of focused on and was like, if I can get my head around this and learn how to use it effectively, like I could do so much just in the studio without having to leave the studio, that it will be really valuable. So I've been really working with that, and that's some of why I've been studying the orchestral stuff, just to try and figure out like how I can utilize that as an undercurrent, but then I would say it's more of an undercurrent in Prison of Hope, and then it's more of a driving force in Spiral, Rapture, Holy War. So I've gone in deep on that, but then I use like an Octatrack, because sometimes I do like to step away from the DAW and just like go in on a sampler, do some like crazy shit. I really like that I can do, for instance, in The Dark Before the End, there's some rhythms that have like filtered, they're filters, but they're on LFOs. So like it's a loop, but every time it hits, it's like filtering in a slightly different way on like this really slow LFO. So and also delayed. So you just get this feeling like, oh, it's just a little different every time it hits. And then the delay hits different. And then when it sits in the mix, it almost sounds like a different rhythm, because sometimes it's filtered out. And then sometimes it's filtered in, and so you get all these things. So I use, and then I've been getting into modular, like a lot of nerds have, I would say around COVID, and the reason why I like that is because if you saw my Here set, I was able to, like, instead of having this pile of heavy, annoying cables and pedals, I was able to like pack all my mixer, my distortion, and it's high quality. It's a lot of it's analog into this little box. To me, it just makes sense.
Do you feel, as someone who is obviously very well versed in like digital synthesis and sound design, do you feel like the modular stuff is too like loose or primitive, like harder to control? Like I feel like sometimes when I see people playing the modular stuff, it's like I like the idea of it, but it all sounds very similar, and it all has this kind of like, it all sounds like, what did I call it? It's like high-end mixer feedback. Not all of it, but that's a lot of what I hear.
Are you talking about like people doing noise on modular?
Yeah, or just using the modular stuff. I'm like, well, it sounds a lot like what you can control it more, and it has more parameters, but like it doesn't seem like you have as much precision. I mean, it seems like it's mostly all like radial dials, or a lot. Whereas like, like working with a DAW and working like digital software, you can chop and look at things just differently and get differently into it. Do you find you use different things, or those for different
Yeah.
They have different roles. And
well, I knew how deep you can get with modular before I got into it. And I will say it's so funny. I think part of the reason why it took me so long to get into it is because I felt the same thing that like, yeah, modular music, it all sounds the same. And it wasn't harsh noise. It was more like drone, like
Right.
synth drone that
Yeah,
people
yeah.
were doing with it, you know? And I was just like, this just sounds like basic oscillators, kind of like warbling
Yeah.
and, you know, the frequencies kind of impeding with each other. And it just never sounded very interesting to me. So my approach to dip my toe into it was like, well, what in my setup can I replace with modular? What would make things easier for me,
Mhm.
not more difficult,
Mhm.
right? Because, you know, there's a joke with modular. It's like you get this wall, $10,000, $13,000 worth of modules to make it go.
Yeah.
It's just like this fucking shitty computer sound, you
Yeah.
know? And so like, I was like, well, what can I replace? And I looked at like mixers, I looked at distortion, I looked at reverb. I was like, okay, well, I can replace most of my pedals,
Yeah.
you know, with modular stuff. So I'm essentially right now, I'm mostly using it for utility. Like you're transferring MIDI to CV and mixing and just effect sends and just getting some crazy effects right
Yeah.
now. I have more stuff at home that sits in the studio where I've actually used, like even on the latest album, certain oscillators that I think just sound really good, run through distortion, run through phasers, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know, but that's more of like a studio thing. It's
Yeah.
not too much a live thing for me because, as you say, like generally it takes a lot to make more of something
Yeah.
a simple tone. And obviously when you hear my music, it's not simple. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
very layered, you know?
Yeah.
So I think you just have to, and this is something that like I've only really learned through doing this for many, many years, is like set restrictions for yourself and like don't go off into a whole new world where you're just going to waste a lot of fucking time. Because I mean, in my life, I just don't have a lot of time
Yeah.
to work on music. So like, sure, you know, I want to do crazy shit like climb into the sewers and fucking record shit,
Yeah.
you know, but like also being a sound designer, I have like tons of sample libriries with that
Yeah,
shit
yeah,
already.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So like again, some of it becomes less exciting to me.
Right.
You know, and but I think it is important also to not let go of some of that stuff in the moment. You know, like if I'm, and the great thing is you've got your phone with you these days. So like if you're just wandering around, you hear a cool sound, it's like no effort to take the phone out, record it, and then put it back in the studio. You know, it's not as much, it's not great quality as opposed to having like a super high end recorder
Right.
with you, you know, but like most people record
Pretty
on like
good.
the H4n that you have
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
right there, you
Yeah.
know, or whatever that is,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
something
something like that.
comparable,
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, like you got to be careful with modular. Like, I'm not a fan of just like messing around for a day, like 8 hours and having nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to be productive when I work. And so lately it's been more like I have the gear that I need. You know, I still get gear lust once in a while. It happens much less than it used to. I try and keep it in check. I'm like, I have everything. It's sick. It can do everything that I want to do. I just want to learn into it what I have better. I want to learn you know, how to get the most out of it. And I want to appreciate the restrictions
Yeah.
instead of, because like I mean, I think there are some albums that I have where I got too crazy and it just was like too much, too many elements, songs were too long, you know, all that stuff. And it's just like I had fun and I was enjoying the process,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's important too.
Yeah.
But now I want to like have that happy medium where I'm enjoying the process, but I'm also being productive and executing my vision.
Yeah. Do you feel like with so much knowledge about how to execute a vision and all the complex things you can do technically, do you sometimes find yourself being like really underwhelmed by other experimental music?
These days, sure. Yeah, more than ever.
Just being like, I mean, I talked to Pat
Yeah,
Yankee. I interviewed Pat
definitely.
Yankee from Paranoid Time on one of the podcasts, and we talked about that. He's, you know, he likes to keep it really simple, really primitive. And we were talking about like kind of like new sounds, searching for new sounds and harsh noise. Like, why is the distortion pedal like kind of like the end all sort of for what people can imagine sometimes for what noise should sound like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's got to be other like wave forms and like shapes that digital synthesis can create, or you know, that can be created that we don't really get with a pedal, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I mean, it must just drive some like sound designer guys crazy that can just like actually like do this shit and just, they're like, you guys, there's a lot more out there. Like,
Yeah.
does it ever feel like that?
I mean, I've never been a fan of what I would describe as wanky experimentalism, even from the beginning. And I would say, I shouldn't say like all of that, because there were certain things that I really liked, and certain, I'm sure, albums of more improvisational stuff that I really enjoyed. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I've seen so much, I've heard so much, and like someone finding a new waveform or something like that, to me is just a tool.
Yeah.
Like you just discovered a tool. Now, how are you going to use it? It's the same thing with like people making their own instruments.
Yeah.
Like have like mad respect for people, Diagram A,
Yeah.
Author and Punisher, these people that like I think it's really sick, but like, then you have the instrument, how are you going to use it?
Yeah.
As far as like, that's how you rate, or not rate, but that's how you learn what the value of the music itself is. Now, a lot of people like mix it in with the performance. So it's not just about the end result, the end product.
Sound, yeah.
It's the performance that goes along with it, how you play this thing, right?
Also their process, like for some people it's like playing your favorite guitar is what you feel gets you the most, the best song, the best sound of the performance of your folk song or whatever. So it's like that does, for some people that is very important, like the physical spirit of whatever you're using.
I think the most important thing, is, again, it's going back to this whole thing of like, I don't want to discourage anyone from having a good time, from feeling like they're furthering themselves artistically. I think that's cool. Like, but I'll tell you, like, if it appeals to me, and like a lot of, stuff that's just like, it's 45 minutes of a pure tone, I'm just like, cool, good, go for it. Like, I don't have time to listen to that, like, it's all good, but yeah, it's not my thing.
Yeah, sure.
And I like less and less as I get older, because I've heard so much,
right,
and I've seen so many performances, and then I've experienced so much of those things combined. And there's some artists that will forever be like up here as far as live performance, but like I've barely ever picked up a CD to listen to, or any music to listen to while I'm walking around or whatever, and vice versa.
Sure.
Too, I've been disappointed in live performances too. So and it's actually kind of, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's kind of fucked up how people expect musicians to be good at all of those things. Like, it's not fair,
right?
Because like someone that does sound experiments, that just is like interested in this and is like out in the field recording and likes to put it together with like some kind of modular thing that they came up with. Like, why do you expect them to have an entertaining performance?
Right.
Like, that's not fair, if that's not their thing, right?
I think about that a lot too with, I'll just specifically tie back to noise, but like, there's so many things you can do with experimental music in the studio, wherever the studio is, if it's your room or whatever, or 4-track, but there's so many sounds that you can do with the tools and with multi-tracking and everything like that, or say even software. Like, why does then it have to be translated to playing it through like, some pedals and a mixer in the performance? Like, there's things you can't replicate live, and if you want to replicate them live, you're just playing them back. And that I personally always I love live music too, but I really value recordings because I like the freedom and creativity you can have there, and I don't necessarily expect that to be like like how do you perform your album live? I mean, like,
I've done all kinds of different stuff, right? Because I've experimented over the years. I mean, I've had some stuff that was like, I would call it very much more live.
Right.
It was maybe like holding a key down on a keyboard and manipulating sounds. So I'm just like, I'm triggering the sound. Then also, I've done plenty of stuff with contact mics and cinder blocks and chains and fucking like scrap metal and like all that stuff, vocals, And then I've also, I mean, some people that have been following my work for a long time know that I've done shows with literally nothing but an Octatrack and just stood up there with a box and just been like, this is it. I'm manipulating sound. I'm triggering samples on there. But like, you know, how live is that? And now I would say like what my current process now is I actually like to play the songs from the albums. And then I also have stuff that like if I'm working on, I can play it as well. And I like to find ways. So, but this is what I've been doing mostly for the last few years is basically like I like to have samples and synths sequenced on a sampler. And it plays on its own in the sequence that I'd like it to play in. And then as it plays, I am just doing nothing but manipulating effects, manipulating synth sounds, turning knobs. For me, it's just fun. And then I don't have to worry about where I am in the set and like all that stuff. And funny enough, like I know I can do that because I play accordion in a folk band, which is literally like that times 10. It's like I'm pressing buttons all the time with both hands, sometimes in polyrhythms, remembering lyrics, like remembering song structures. I can do that, right? But to me, that's not what Zyphoid is. To me, Zyphoid was always separated from the physical. It's like cerebral, it's spiritual, it's like the sound itself. It's not so much the performance. And I will say, I think over the years, I've included a little bit more performance aspects, more just in like eye contact with the audience, body language, having, you know, singing and having vocals helps, which I'm doing a bit more instead of just screaming or whatever.
Are you singing in the first track?
Yeah.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, nice.
It's all. And so that was actually a fun thing about Prison of Hope because I sang in the last song on that album. And it was the first time I've ever sang in a Zyphoid track. And I was like, time to do something different. You know? And also like, to be fair, I never mastered screaming without destroying my voice. So every time I would go on tour or play live, I'd just fuck my voice up by screaming. And I was just getting tired of that. But at the same time, when I started doing my folk stuff, I unlocked a lot of vocal techniques that I hadn't really thought of or done since I was really young. And I used to sing a lot when I was young. I was in the choir. I sang in church. You know, I was in like I was in like some bands in high school and stuff. Nothing like that anyone would know. But so I could sing, and I also started doing that in sound design in my job a lot too. Using vocal techniques. There's so much you can do. Just like you go in a booth with a mic and your voice as a sound designer, and then like you have all that source material. You can put it through effects and the DAW. It's just like it's endless. So I'm kind of like I can create a fucking like, you know, wooden raft falling apart with my mouth almost more effectively than I could go out there and like fuck around with some wood and a recorder, like, you know, because you can do it really quietly in a you know, isolated space. So I mean that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but you know, I think just the value that my voice brought was a revelation for me around that time. And so I was like, well, what is someone gonna do if like someone sings in a power electronics, you know, album, like, you know, so I did that. And then, you know, of course it really like that, I think is when the influences of the old school CMI band started really coming to me. I was like, oh man, like I feel like Deutsch Nepal when I'm singing this song. And it's like a really cool feeling because I just love his work, you know? And so I was like, I'm just gonna go with this. You know, but it's not all gonna be like that, especially Zyphoid. It's always gonna retain a heart of like some harsh, noisy stuff, like undercurrents happening. It'll just be, it's very restrained.
Have you ever considered going on stage with like acoustic musicians?
I've had offers from some people, and it's probably something I would do, but I wouldn't say that I'm not sure how realistic the offers were and how like it's just hard to have that, you know, because I'm still playing dive bars. I'm still playing fucking like basements, you know, there's not a lot of people jumping to like
with their like $20,000 timpanis or something like that, or like, you know,
you know, like it's not very realistic. If someday someone gets me an offer to play with an orchestra, yeah, sure, I'll take that.
That'd be cool. That'd be great.
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that's in the cards.
So let's now go back. You've alluded to it now a number of times, and let's like go back to your kind of history, to what you've been doing in the scene for many, many years. You were living in Boston, and from what I know, you were the guy organizing shows. You were running a big label, distro, zine. We also, you also made me aware that you were kind of like a pre-podcast podcaster. You had an audio.
Not a lot of people know about this.
Yeah,
I had to remind a few when
Yeah.
you got when you guys when the noise podcast started happening. I had to remind a few people. I was like,
But I did. I did. Yeah, no,
a little before my time. But
yeah, no, that's legit. I mean, that's really cool. So, I guess before I ask you any questions, just tell me a bit about what you kind of did and your history there, starting early. You don't have to go back to like your childhood or something like that.
No, of course.
But like 99 or whatever kind of onwards when you were getting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can give you kind of the history of the whole thing. 99, I started talking online to this guy, Jonathan Cans, I think his name was. He ran a label called LSD Organization. And I felt like he was an amazing graphic designer. He was doing these really detailed designs that, like, at the time they would look kind of Photoshop. It wasn't as rudimentary as a lot of other stuff, but he would do this elaborate packaging, wooden boxes, canvas cases with silkscreen for very, like, he did a lot of like kind of runic looking logos that weren't actually runes. He just had this feel for design that I really respected, and he heard my stuff on like mp3.com or something, like, which was a very early, I would say it's like Bandcamp equivalent in like the late 90s, and was like, I would like you to be on a comp. So he put me on a compilation with like Ball, BAAL, Quell and Azoicum, and like some like weird, Ohio and Germany and like all these, and it was my first taste of like, holy shit, like this is an international scene, Of course I'd heard Merzbow and stuff before and knew that there was like this faraway land where people made noise, but for me, it was my first time being involved in it. And so I stayed in touch with him. He somehow elevated me to like being label assistant, which I really did nothing for. And he would just send me releases, and I was just like, "Fuck yeah, this is cool,"
Were you guys weren't in the same state or?
I think he was in California. I really didn't know much about him at all, which was funny. But I was just like, whatever you need help with, and like every once in a while, I'd help him with like some small thing, and he'd be like totally stoked and send me like a pile of stuff, and I was like, "This is awesome." And then he, I think, fucked over a bunch of people and disappeared, as people do. And I was just like, oh, he wasn't answering my messages anymore. That was it. And then I just was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep working on stuff. And I released a 3-inch on Soulworm, which at the time was a Poland-based label. They were doing like CDRs and stuff. Another like label where I think they had like really good design.
Was it Zyphoid Dementia already?
Yeah. From the start. I mean, I came up with the name when I was 18.
Okay, cool.
Like barely out of high school, like just started working on ambient noise shit, and just like doing it. So and then I was in Boston for school. I moved to Boston in 99, and I wasn't part of the scene. And I would say like definitely one of my live experiences that I remember a lot is the Very Big Noise show that RRR put on at the Berwick, and there is a VHS of it, which I didn't know until like a year ago. Cool. And that was like Purient, RHYO, Viodra, a band called Human is Filth, who I saw that guy for the first time like a month ago when I was in New England, and 20 years. Maybe, he's still out there. Slogan played that. It was just like crazy heavy hitters before like any of these guys were really like a thing, and my mind was blown. I was just like, holy shit, this is crazy. And it was Sickness played that too. definitely don't want to throw Sickness under the bus there. No, he was there. He was amazing.
Yeah.
Stimbox played that. I could. This is a lot of acts, but
Awesome.
so that was huge. And then after that, you know, I knew Purient was local, so I'd go catch Dom playing whenever. And I was just like super stoked on noise and experimental shows as attending.
Yeah.
Now I didn't play live much.
Yeah.
And so I moved to Pittsburgh for a quick stint, and I remember that as specifically being a place where I played live a few times. So it might have been around that time that I started. I also went down and played Richmond, Virginia Noise Fest 2005, which was like a pretty big one for me. It was probably the first time I traveled to play anywhere. And I had like, at this time, I think I had a laptop.
Okay.
I was still playing with like a laptop, and it almost crashed on me right before a show. And I think I was like, that's the last time I'm ever using a laptop.
That was at the height of laptop hate, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Probably.
Yeah. And I was actually a big proponent of digital noise at that point. And I don't know if that was like a mistake looking back on it. I definitely wish that I had done less laptop stuff, especially for my first album, Embalmed in Purity. I think it suffers from having a lot of digital laptop effects at that time. Of course, it's come a long way now, all the digital noise stuff with VCV, rack, and all that stuff. But there still is like a bit of a digital scene. But yeah, I mean, I think it was before Merzbow went full laptop. He might have been flirting with it at the time, but yeah, it was like people hated laptops at that point. But what I was doing was just too layered at that point to like not use a laptop. But I was mostly using it to control MIDI and stuff.
Sure.
So I had like a Nord, I had one of those Nord micro leads. I had a 4MS noise swash, which I was just doing both distortion and like self oscillation layers with. I had a Behringer mixer, you know, everyone had those. So yeah, I played in Pittsburgh, and then I moved back to Boston. And I think it was the 2008 Noise and Power Electronics festivals that Shane of Two Dead Sluts, One Good Fuck put on. Also of Corphalism, and now he does Problem Masturbator. Him and Ted might have been involved in that too. But that was sick because like Halflings played, Angel Dust played, which is Robert Francisco, also of MX Neumark. And it was just like who's who of East Coast power electronics. It was a huge influence, and I was just like, this rips, this is awesome, it's a great time. And so 2009, I did my first tour with Zerfault and Water Dogs. Water Dogs was very short-lived.
Who was that?
A guy named Brandon Terzakis that became like a jazz drummer. He's like a jazz drummer now.
Oh, interesting.
Zerfault is Lee Tyndall, who played as one half of a band Astronaut, and the other half of that band Astronaut went on to become One Hit Tricks Point Never, I think. Okay. If I'm getting the name right, it's like a kind of Pitchfork electronic band. So these things are all like intertwined, right? So we went on tour for 10 days. We went to Indiana, and we played at the Red Light District, which that was later on. Actually, it might not have been that tour. I can't remember if we played. No, I don't think we played at the Red Light District on that tour. No, we didn't. So 2009. But anyways, I made all these contacts on tour, and that like really turned me on to the DIY thing. And I was probably, I want to say like 25, 26 at this time, maybe a little younger. So I started doing shows in Boston. Actually, I think what really broke the cherry of doing shows in Boston was the 2009 Northeast Power Electronics Festival. I might have started to do shows first, and then Shane asked me if I wanted to help with it. And all I really did was got Stramek from Finland to play as a headliner. And that took enough effort on its own. But that was totally epic because we brought them all the way from Finland. Sick. Then I went with them and we played Apex Festival 4 in New York, which is Lee from Theologians Festival. Sorry, I know I'm just like dropping names here, but that's like perfect. This is the quick version. And the 2009 Power Electronics Festival was actually incredible because it was like we went from having the halflings to having Pharmacon, halflings, cathode terror secretion. This is like all of a sudden, this is the red light district like showcase.
Yeah.
You know, we had Consumer Electronics headlining, Bloody Minded. Bloody Minded may have played the first one too. I can't quite remember. But anyways, like to have the red light district all come up. We had a Fire in the Head, who I should mention too, because I released some of his stuff on my label. Bereft. Which was Peter Lee, which I did a decent amount of promotion stuff with, and Andrew from the Vomit Arsonist was in that as well. So all of a sudden it was just this like showcase for Red Light District, a lot of like Providence people, a lot of Boston people, and it was really sick, and that just like really got the juices flowing for me, and I was like, shows are fucking awesome. I love meeting people. I love helping put on these artistic get-togethers, you know, and the connection with people was just like something that I found really rewarding. So I embarked on the Existence Establishment promotion, which I probably skipped around the time that I converted Blood. Did I talk about Blood Ties?
No, not really. I'm
trying to get it all in.
No. But yeah, when did that happen? Because that's when the audio, that's when the interviews were happening.
So I started a webzine at some point. It must have been when I got back from Pittsburgh. So I would say it was 2007. The big interviews that I did was at No Fun Fest 2006. Macronympha. I think I interviewed Mark from Bloody Minded. And Grunt.
That's the end of part 1 of my conversation with Egan. In the full 2-hour and 40-minute episode, we dive much deeper into his heavy activities in the underground, his early and ahead of its time media documentation, Red Light District, the Sleep Chamber reunion in Boston, his neo-folk project Headstone Brigade, reflections on his time in the city, martial arts, top 5s, and much more. To hear the full episode, head to patreon.com/whitecenipedenoise and subscribe.